What's up, you guys? Coach Sarah here. This is my weekly weight loss chat. Today I wanted to talk to you about motivation. The reason is we are actually in a very unique time of year right now. So if you've ever made any kind of a New Year's resolution, you know that now is about the time that those resolutions start to fall by the wayside. However, this is also the point where swimsuit season is upon us and summer is coming. So we just find ourselves in this transitional time where whatever your resolutions were, you may be falling off, or maybe you're rocking it, who knows? And then summer is coming, so then you might also be wanting to gear up for that swimsuit body or whatever it is. So that when you think of motivation, that is just a very interesting place to be in, where it really uncovers for us the fact that having big motivation all the time is very difficult to do. Now that framework, what I just shared, is really pointing towards people who are trying to get success. But I can tell you from working with tons of people that wane in motivation can happen whether you are successful or not. I've had clients that are doing amazing, absolutely amazing. They're losing weight, they're on their way to their ideal body, and then suddenly they just start to slow down. And it's, their motivation begins to wane. So no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're just starting out, whether you've made a resolution, or maybe you've had some success, or even, and this is a big one that we don't talk about a lot on videos like this, but when you actually hit your goal, that's another really clear time where motivation might suddenly start to wane, because it's like, well, I did it, now what, So wherever you are in your journey, motivation is a useful and important thing to look at. Now, as far as my answer to this question, what do I do if my motivation starts to wane? I want to paint a picture for you, a vision. You and your ideal body. So you and your ideal body. Or, you know what, if that's a little bit too difficult to envision, because I have had people who say they can't really envision that, where they are in their life. Let's just imagine somebody who is in an ideal body. So even if it's like an actor or like an athlete, somebody that you admire and you think, man, if I was in their body, life would be perfect, I'd have it made. We want to think about, in that ideal body, how does that person live? How does that person stay in that ideal body? Well, I can tell you, those people, I can tell you as a person who's achieved her ideal body, they don't stay in that body by hardcore doing all of the things all the time. So they're not constantly pushing themselves out of their comfort zones. Quite the contrary, they have found routines and habits that they can depend on. Additionally, and this is the key, is their perspective. Their perspective on how they're eating, how they're moving or not moving. It all comes down to this one key concept. And that concept is this: you are always on the path. So there's never a point where you're off the path. And it can be very confusing in our culture, because we talk about, oh, I fell off the wagon. You never fell off the wagon. And I know why we say that, right? It's like, oh, I'm doing all the things to get me into my body, and now I'm not. So I've fallen off the wagon. I want to offer you a different perspective. So rather than being on or off, what if we look at our journey as we're either moving forward or we're moving backwards. So, or slowing down. So we're either moving forwards or we're slowing down, or maybe we're paused. There's actually, I would say, there's never really a point where you're just stopped. you're either moving forwards or maybe you're backpedaling just a little bit, but we are always on the path. And so when you begin to look at it that way, it becomes much more of a continuum. And that opens up some interesting possibilities for when you are in those moments where your motivation is waning. Because remember, it's not a question of I'm either doing this or I'm not. It's a question of what am I doing? That's simply it. What am I doing right now? And so with that in mind, what I want to offer you is if you find yourself in that position where your motivation is waning, reframe. Okay, my motivation might be waning, but I'm still on the path. Like I am on the path for better or worse. And I'm either moving towards my goal or away from my goal. What can I do to move towards my goal? Even if I'm not doing all the things that I want to do, what can I do? So some examples of that might be, let's say you're in a position where you're eating cake every single night after your meal. And you know that's probably not helping you get to your ideal body, but you're doing it anyways, and it's tough to just not do it. What can you do to continue moving towards your goals? Now, the snarky answer is stop eating the cake. Well, sure. But let's say you're just not in a position where, let's say you just don't want to stop eating the cake. But you are always on the path. There's no stepping off the path. Your body doesn't know that you've stepped off the path. So it's either doing, moving towards the goal or moving away from the goal, or it's paused or whatever, but it's always on the path. So what can you do knowing that you're always on the path? What can you do in that moment? Well, I've got an idea. Maybe you cut the piece of cake in half. You just start cutting it in half. Or maybe you give yourself the gift of a different dessert. Maybe you're just in this kind of cycle and the cake is just becoming this thing that you're depending on, but maybe if you change it up and have a pie one night, maybe that just breaks you out of the cycle. Or maybe you're eating it out of the container rather than serving yourself. Just little things. What little thing can you do? Because no matter what, you're still on the path. There's no off the path. So even if you're not watching what you eat, you're not buying healthy food, maybe you're eating out for every single meal, your body doesn't know that you're off the path. So it's still processing food exactly how it always does. The question is, what can you do to tweak what you're doing on the path? So that's what I've got for you this week. If you have ideas or thoughts around what being on the path looks like for you, or maybe you're struggling with where you are on the path and you want some ideas, feel free to reach out. Let me know. I'd love to come up with some plans for you. But that's it for now, and we'll talk soon. Take care.